Welcome back to BaldHeaded Reactions, guys. My name is Joseph. Today, I'm going to be doing another Jinjer reaction to the song Sit, Stay, Roll Over live in Melbourne. And before I start, I kind of want to say that I've seen a lot of in the comments people ask me, why do I keep reacting to this band despite the fact that I am not 100% on board with it? And that's really honestly coming from this perspective that if I thought the band was literally shit, I wouldn't be reacting to it. I think would have given up and kind of moved on. But despite the fact that I'm not 100% on board sometimes with everything that I hear, or I might not like all the elements, I do think that there's something special in this band, there's something different in this band that makes it worthwhile to listen. And I also know my personality, that my personality has been where I've had certain bands like Lamb of God, Green Carnation, who else can I think of that took me time, Melekesh. When I first listened to these bands, I kind of dismissed them, or I couldn't get into them, or Atheists, and it's just I had a hard time understanding why do people like this band. Nile is another one. And I kept trying, I kept coming back, I kept trying to see maybe I am thinking wrong, maybe I'm approaching it wrong, and a lot of these bands ended up clicking with me in the end as they grew on me. And sometimes they don't grow on me, but I still appreciate seeing talented musicians out there doing something they do, and even the bands I love the most, I can find critique towards. So take it with a grain of salt, whatever I say, just my opinion. Don't take it too close to heart. Obviously, if you love them and that's the band that changed your whole perspective on heavy metal, I'm really honestly glad for you as well. But let's get into this reaction without any further ado. I'm gonna keep my open mind. I've actually liked the song I did before earlier in the week, Outlander. So it's kind of interesting. I like some songs, I don't like some songs. But let's get into it. Let's not waste any more time. Sorry for the long-winded intro. Can I turn it up? Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I like this right off the bat, actually. I'm actually quite enjoying it. The one thing that I always kind of grab onto is the drummer. I really like the drummer and how he performs and kind of his skill level. But I think all the musicians in this band are quite talented. And I've pointed this out many times. I really enjoy her growls. Lion dogs are burned down. They do one thing, yeah, they turn down. With their mind down, their mind down, fall. The evil goes to fall. The evil goes to fall. It does not go loose. The soul knows the food is done. In dark realm, rain on dark. The glass cries bones. The glass cries bones. Claws crush bones. Claws crush bones. Now. The hearts of disappears. They long to cruelation. Our bones and stones. Your deceit is subjected. It is a basic skill to learn. The only shame about this recording right now, I'm having a hard time hearing the guitar, because maybe it's in live, because I can hear he's creating some really interesting melodies in the background. I think that sometimes comes from the fans almost it's hard to understand as a fan, because I've been there, where you want to give people the live performance of a band because it's so good and they're able to perform it, but as somebody who's never listened to the studio recording, they don't know all the intricacies and details of the music, right? So sometimes they can hear a live version and kind of dismiss it very quickly and say, this is okay, where they don't hear all the underlying melodies that are actually happening there. I think this might be the case here, where I know I can hear something faintly in the background, but maybe the way it was recorded, whatever it is, like I'm sure in the studio version I'll be able to hear all the layers that they've kind of created in this music. And it's also really interesting in comparison to Outlander how different in styles it is and how much they've changed, where I kind of said Outlander sounded very, very much reminiscent of Lamb of God, kind of a style of groove, like progressive groove, thrash metal mixed with like death metal, like that kind of, metalcore thing that was going on here. Whereas here, this is a lot more, well, at least this song feels a little bit more death metal to me, for whatever, obviously they have a lot of things going on in this band. Yeah, I like this a lot more than some of the other songs that I've listened to. Mainly because it's also harsher. It's a harsher song. It's a heavier song. This was cool. I think Outlander and Pit of Consciousness are so far my favorites, the ones are the ones I've heard. And those songs I can replay and listen to, and I kind of instantly connected with. And I did say something last time on the Mediator reaction that kind of had a lot of people really disagree with my opinion when I called Jinjer commercial, right? And everybody kind of had this reaction when they thought, because we all define commercial, I guess that's what I've learned from that video, is that we define commercial very differently. People took it as me saying that they are like sellouts, or they're doing just a popular thing just to get more money, and that there's no substance in their music. I think that's how people took it when I said commercial. And I guess I'll either rephrase or try to explain what I meant by that. Is I think Jinjer, when I say they're commercial, I mean that in every period, let's say I'll take just heavy metal as a genre, and every period of time there's been certain waves of heavy metal music, there's certain genres that were the popular thing, right? Remember in the late 70s to early 80s, it was new wave of British heavy metal, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Gravedigger, all these kind of guys were really rising up, and they were the sound of heavy metal as other sounds started being created, like thrash metal. And then thrash metal in the mid 80s, early 80s, like early 80s to mid 80s, started picking up steam, became the thing that everybody wanted to play. Everybody wanted to be a thrash metal band after Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Testament. Everybody wanted to be those guys. Then the wave of hair metal hit, and hair metal is the bad kind of commercial music, but hair metal hit us. And I think after hair metal, we got this big wave of power metal and symphonic metal, right? And it was followed by death metal. From death metal went to black metal. Like what I'm trying to say is every decade or every wave had its time to shine and be the most popular genre that everybody wanted to do, or was the music that kind of wasn't everybody's, that they were inspired by and they wanted to kind of do. And I feel like, especially after the 2000s with the metalcore and hardcore, and after new metal in the early 90s and early 2000s, this genre here is the kind of the fusion of a lot of those elements. I don't even know what you would call it, really. I don't know if there's like its own subgenre at this point, but whatever like Jinjer's playing, and I would probably put Crystal Lake in within Jinjer. I'm trying to think of newer bands that kind of play this way. OTEP. I'm sure there's other ones, because this is not, I'll be honest, this is not the genre I prefer. So I can see that this is the new wave that's really hitting right now, that's popular and interesting, and people want to hear and find it the next evolution of heavy metal. And that's what I meant when I said Jinjer is commercial. Because right now, like for example, Jinjer, I believe, is for a wider audience of heavy metal than something like Nile. Nile is like very extreme death metal, it's speed death metal with Egyptian lyrics. I think that's a very small percentage of people who are going to listen to that. Something like Melekesh or something like Burzum or Dark Funeral, they're never going to have really large audiences of how niche their music is. Where I believe Jinjer kind of casts a slightly wider net with their music, because there's jazz influences, because there is singing, because there is growling, because there is progressive nature of their music and the popular influences of hardcore and metalcore and infusing death metal. They've kind of cast a more wider net with their music. And that's where I wanted to kind of explain that to you guys, what I meant. Again, you can disagree with that. I understand that, and I respect if you disagree with that. But that's where I think they stand. And there's some songs I like from them and some songs I don't. This particular song I think was cool. Not my favorite. I think Outlander, Pit of Consciousness stays as my number one. Well, here you go for a long-winded intro. Hopefully, guys, you enjoyed my analysis and my reaction to the music. If you did, make sure to subscribe down for more. And if you have your own comments to add to the conversation, whether you disagree, agree, or just something else that you wanted to say, you have your own definition of what commercial is, I would love to hear from you, and we can kind of discuss it together. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep it metal.